Hi, everybody. It's Paul Kegavine at the Garland County Library, and we're here tonight with National Park Ranger Ashley Weymouth, and we're here to celebrate and discuss the 100th anniversary of Hot Springs National Park, which is coming up very soon. In fact, it was made a national park on March 4th, 1921. Is that right, Ashley?
That's correct.
All right. Well, Ranger Weymouth, welcome. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
So Ashley's going to begin with an overview of the park's history. I know you have a presentation prepared, and also some of the changes the community in Hot Springs and the visitors can expect in the future. And after that, I'm going to come back in and read off any questions or comments you viewers have for her. So don't hesitate to get those posted. All right. So Ranger Weymouth, I'm going to let you get started, and let's see if you'll share your screen. I'll add it here.
Alrighty. All right, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Well, like Paul said, my name is Ashley Weymouth, and I am very fortunate to work for Hot Springs National Park. I am a park ranger, and this year I get to be the park's Centennial Coordinator. I feel really special and fortunate to have taken this on because, as we know, a 100th anniversary only comes once every 100 years. So we've spent this year, really planning and dreaming and scheming all of the great ways that we could bring our community together to celebrate this momentous occasion. So as we go through this presentation, if you have any questions or if you want to know more, please definitely don't hesitate to ask. So one of the things that you may have started to notice around town is we have had these wonderful Centennial banners made. On the screen now, we have our official Hot Springs 100 logo. This was designed by Visit Hot Springs and CJRW, the advertising firm. And I'm only showing you one, but there are actually in total 9 different logos featuring each of the different bathhouses that we have in our park. And so just this week, Visit Hot Springs and the City of Hot Springs have been putting up light pole banners all down Central Avenue and all down Convention Boulevard to help bring in the spirit and what we look forward to in 2021. And they're really beautiful. So definitely be sure to take a walk around town and check them out. Now, our park, Hot Springs, we have a very long and rich, complex history. The very first time that President Jefferson sent explorers to Hot Springs to learn all about it was in 1804. And shortly thereafter, in 1832, given their findings, they saw the thermal springs, they saw these extremophiles like the blue-green algae that was growing in the thermal springs. And, they wrote such a detailed and wonderful report for President Jefferson that over time, curiosity in this region of Hot Springs kept growing and people became, more interested, and slowly people started to come and visit this place. And very quickly, Congress realized that this area needed to be protected to preserve the thermal springs in perpetuity, so that way people could always come here and enjoy these healing waters. So in 1832, Congress made us Hot Springs Reservation. And so we were one of the very first pieces of land to ever be federally protected. We were protected even before Yellowstone, which actually wasn't protected until 40 years later. And, we were protected even before the National Park Service existed, which didn't take place until 1916. Now, in 1921, 5 years later, our name was changed from Hot Springs Reservation to Hot Springs National Park. And so, that's really what we're here to celebrate this next year, even though we do recognize that we are far older than we appear. So glancing at this timeline, you can see, I mean, even looking at this photo, this is downtown Hot Springs in the 1890s. On the right, you can see some of those wooden bathhouses, and you can see the early structures of downtown. And, when I look at these old historic photographs, I feel like, especially us, we're in this really special place that the national park and the city have really grown together throughout time. And we've changed and we've evolved and we've adapted. And, we may look different, but I feel like our spirit, our togetherness is very much still the same. So a lot of the early bathhouses, when they first began, were really just these like holes in the ground. But as you can see in this picture, people got really creative with how they tried to get in the water. And for those of you that don't know, the water does come out of the ground at 143 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's quite hot. So they had to find these different ways to still be able to soak before our wonderful and beautiful, elegant bathhouses were built. And so, we can skip ahead on our timeline here. In 1987, Bathhouse Row was made a historic landmark. And then since that time, a lot of our bathhouses have been readapted to really meet these modern day needs of people. So today we do have a boutique hotel. We still have 2 places where you can soak in the thermal springs. We have a brewery and restaurant. We have a gift store, a cultural center, and we still have room to grow even from there. So, when we look at our 100th anniversary, we really want to take into mind, everything that we've gone through in the last 100 years, which, if you could see our actual timeline, we'd probably be here for the next 100 years just reviewing it, because it is so vast and rich. And so I just wrote down a quick few really interesting blurbs here about Hot Springs. Like I mentioned, we were set aside by Congress in 1832. And our thermal water here is really unique, and it's really special because unlike other hot springs, our thermal springs actually, they start off as rain, and they fall, as they hit the ground, they go through these geologic cracks in the earth, and they travel 6,000 to 8,000 feet deep. And it takes them about 4,000 years to travel this deep, and the deeper they go, the hotter that they become, until they eventually hit a fault line and then make their way to the surface. So our springs are not volcanically heated. They're really rich in minerals. They're odorless. They have a clean taste. And I hope that many of you are coming to the park to fill your water bottles and enjoying this wonderful, bounteous resource. And one of my favorite things to say is that, the hot springs water that we see today fell as rain when the pyramids of Egypt were built. So, I don't know, I think about that and it kind of blows my mind a little bit. We are the second smallest park in the national park system. Small but mighty is how we feel. And, we are a whopping 5,500 acres, but we still are able to boast about 26 miles of hiking trails. And this symbol that you see on the screen where it says flowing from the past and springing into the future, this is going to be our Centennial cancellation stamp. So many people that like to travel and visit national parks, they have a passport to the national parks book where they'll stamp the date that they were there and got to visit. And so this is something that we'll be offering next year for visitors to stamp their books with. And I've also included some visitation statistics for us. I hope you can see this well. But, when we first were protected and we started, when we first had bathhouses for people to come and enjoy, we were one of the most visited national parks or, federal reservations in existence. And, you look at these numbers and they look pretty low, but you also have to consider that in the early days, we didn't really have a lot of roads. We didn't have reliable transportation. People often had to travel by carriage over treacherous terrain for days before arriving, so to still be able to endure all of that and still boast some of the highest numbers in the park system in our early years, we feel quite proud. And given the healing quality and given sort of what people feel when they get in the thermal water and drink the thermal water, it's no surprise. And Hot Springs National Park, we were in the top 10 most visited sites in the national park system for quite a while, and we've dropped down just a bit. Just last year, we were the 18th most visited park in the system. So, considering there are now 422 different national park sites, I feel that's something we can definitely be proud of. So, given our long, rich, beautiful history, when we were thinking about our centennial celebrations, we didn't want to just do one event and call it done. We thought, well, we have a whole year. We might as well make the most of it because, 100, like I mentioned, only comes around every so often. So we will have a couple of year-long events that we will be offering for people to participate every single month. And additionally, we will have special events happening each month in the park. Now, this doesn't even include, the events that we are working with our park partners to plan throughout the city of Hot Springs. So this is just what the park is hosting, but is not by any means a comprehensive list of everything that will be available. So a couple of our year-long events, one of them is our Iron Ranger Challenge. And so some of you might have heard of this before. The Iron Ranger Challenge first started at Buffalo National River in 2016. And the premise of this challenge is to encourage people to hike, bike, paddle, swim, really just do any kind of physical activity on any Arkansas public land. So that could be a national park, it could be a state park, a national forest, a wildlife refuge. And, here in Arkansas, we are the natural state with 52 state parks and 2 national forests and countless Army Corps sites and at least 7 national park sites. We have a lot of opportunities to get out and explore. And in the center there, this is our logo, and this is the patch that you will receive. This is the design for the patch that you receive once you log 100 miles on Arkansas public lands. And so you can either mail or email a log to either Hot Springs National Park or Buffalo National River, and you'll get a certificate and this patch. So it's a really great program. It's a great way to, inspire yourself to get outside and to get moving and really enjoying all that we have to offer in the state. And so in addition to the Iron Ranger Challenge, another year-long event that we'll be hosting are monthly photo contests. So starting in January and running all the way through December, each month we'll be hosting a different themed photo contest in the park. And, we really want people to get out into the park and explore different places and really use their creativity and, capture what you're seeing and share it with us. And so each month, you can upload your photo. I believe the theme for January is historic. So if you have an image or if you take an image that you feel really captures the feeling of something historic in the park, definitely submit it. And I'm just going through these kind of quickly, but there is more information on our website if you would like to learn more about either of these. But every month, our winner will be selected by the park staff, and it will be featured on our social media, and it will become the banner on our website for that month. So it's a great way to, share what you see. And so I've listed some of the monthly events that we will be hosting. The one that I didn't include because we just sort of threw it together in January, on New Year's Day, we will be hosting a series of guided hikes throughout the park. We liken this to like our first day hikes or our resolution hikes. And so we'll have 5 different guided hikes in the park. There will be 3 trail runs and a bike ride that will be available thanks to our partnership with the Spa City Pacers and the Northwoods mountain biking folks. So in a couple of weeks, actually, maybe in about a week, we will be releasing more information about that so folks can sign up. We are limiting participation for safety, but definitely if you're interested, check that out. But, like Paul mentioned, back to the monthly events, like Paul mentioned, March 4th is our official birthday. And so we will be hosting some kind of virtual or decentralized event throughout town to highlight, the official day that we were declared a national park. Only 17 other sites have made it to their 100 years. So, we were the 18th national park, and so we are the 18th to join the rank of all of those who have turned 100. And in April 20th, 1832, that was when we were made a reservation. And so April 20th, we will be hosting a Hot Springs Reservation Day to celebrate 189 years of being federally protected. And so, we'll probably offer guided hikes and do some specialty tours, again, something decentralized and safe for people to join in on. In May, we will be hosting a Bio Blitz. And so for those of you that are unfamiliar, Bio Blitz sounds kind of fancy, but it's really just a way for us to get out into the park and to explore all of the different plants and animals that exist here. And so we'll probably be using an app like iNaturalist or something similar. And really all you have to do is go around and take pictures of everything that you see. And so the more people that we can get out on a particular day collecting data, then, the better understanding that our park scientists have of what exists in the park at this time of year. So it's really fun. It's a great way to learn more about this place that we all call home and see who else calls this place home. And then, I will say that, of course, our frenemy, this global pandemic, the coronavirus, has definitely given us a bit of pause for some of our events, especially in the early part of the year, which is why a lot of them are like decentralized or maybe virtual, or, we'll be featuring smaller groups of people. We definitely want to follow all of the CDC guidelines and protocols, and we, so we're taking that into account. And so we're hoping that by the time the summer rolls around, we will be able to have in-person events again. And that will launch with a 1921 themed block party to take place not just on Bathhouse Row, but also along Central Avenue. So in our Dream of Dreams, we have like swing dancing, we have jazz bands, we have gangster costume contests, and we just bring the roaring 20s back to downtown Hot Springs for a day. In July, we will celebrate our furry friends. The National Park Service has a program called the Bark Ranger program, where dogs and their owners can go through training and then eventually become bark rangers. And so we want to have a very dog-focused, dog-friendly event where we have workshops and trainings, and you can meet our canine ranger Cognac and Ranger Little, pictured here. They are fantastic examples of the canine program, and they're always, they're so fun and always willing to share some cool things with us. So as a dog lover, I'm definitely excited for that event. In August, we will have a Junior Ranger Day. Now, the Junior Ranger program is really popular across our national parks, and it's definitely really popular in our park. So we want to have a whole day just dedicated to our Junior Rangers and, increasing their stewardship and increasing their curiosity and having lots of fun in a very dynamic workshop-based way. In September, we want to celebrate the foundation of the park through the Thermal Springs Festival. And so this will be all things water, all things watershed, all things geology, but I promise it'll be fun. Because, when hot springs are involved, how could it not be? And in October, we will have an Archaeology Day. Our park's archaeologist has a lot of really wonderful artifacts and a lot of really great programs. And so we want to partner with local agencies to bring the importance of archaeology, especially in a park like ours, to life for a day. And then in November, as we close out the year, we don't want to forget that our park was created for the health and wellness of all people. And so by having a park prescription weekend, we want to honor that, with health-focused events, yoga, movement, running, biking, walking, everything that sort of gets our blood pumping and reminds us that we are happy, healthy human beings existing in a wonderful place. And then December is kind of your last chance to finish up your 100 miles for the Iron Ranger program and get your last photographs in for the year. And yeah, December is so far, but yeah, it seems like we'll just really be wrapping things up that month. And I mean, in general, that's kind of everything that we have planned for the park. Everything is subject to change and we are really hopeful, but as our events continue to grow or as we have more information, we'll definitely be posting it on our park's website. And we also post pretty frequently on Facebook and on Instagram. So if you don't follow us there, I highly encourage you to, because that's where you will get the most up-to-date information. If you guys have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. If you have any ideas for Centennial celebrations or things you'd love to see, I would love to hear that too. So thank you all.
All right, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thank you. That was very informative, and you guys have a lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah, we do. It's going to be a great year.
Yeah, I gotta say, I like the different logos you guys are doing because it kind of reminds me of what the host city for the Olympics does, kind of the way they look and how there's a bunch of different versions of it. So yeah, like Ashley said, if you have any questions or comments, please ask. But just in case you guys are shy, I did come prepared with some questions for you. So first off, let's start with the pandemic. You covered a bit how it might affect the upcoming events, but just to start on a gloomy note, how has it affected the day-to-day operations of the national park on both the staff side and the public end?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. In March when the pandemic was first declared, we did shut the park down for a while, but since then we've gone through a phased reopening plan. So now, the entire park is open, but the only thing that does remain closed is the historic museum itself. It is also our park's visitor center and where people obtain a lot of their information. So we do still have information that we're putting out on the porch, and we have a doorbell, so if you have a question, a ranger can come out and talk to you. And in terms of staffing, man, I feel like it's been an interesting challenge in terms of staffing for us this year, because there are a lot more protocols that we need to follow, and there's a level of cleanliness that we'd like to upkeep. I feel like a lot of us are really dedicated to that. And so our priorities have sort of shifted to keep public safety sort of at the forefront of our focus.
We just got a comment from Bucky who wants to thank you and is excited to have you and the National Park staff working on all of this.
Thanks, Bucky. We're so happy to be working with you.
And then Mia asked, is there a need for volunteers for the various events?
Yeah, definitely. For each of these events, we want to have all of the in-person events anyway, we want to have booths and tables and interactive ways for people to connect. So definitely we always have a need for volunteers for events. You can email us directly at the park and get more information about volunteering. But yeah, we'd love to have you, Mia.
So what does the process of becoming a National Park Ranger consist of?
Oh, becoming a ranger. I guess it's kind of like any other job. You just apply. No, but I feel like a lot of rangers, we have either different specialty trainings or we wake up one day and we've realized that this is what we absolutely want to do. I know for me, it was kind of a roundabout experience where I worked in environmental education for a long time, and then, for different agencies and different universities, and then realized that the ultimate environmental education was with the Park Service. So I became a park ranger at Crater Lake National Park, and I was there for a couple of years. And it was just so amazing, because you get to live in a national park. I really love talking to people and I love studying history. And so I joined the interpretation division, which is if you've ever taken a guided hike or if you've done a tour at a national park, you've been with an interpreter is what we call us. But, we have park rangers that are our law enforcement rangers. We have park rangers that help maintain our buildings and help maintain our water flows. We have natural resource rangers, so they, study all of the plants, the animals, the wildlife, and everything in between. And then, we also have our cultural resource rangers who, look at the human side of things and, try to preserve and tell those more human stories. So, yeah, it's kind of a complicated question, but there are so many ways to become a park ranger.
So you had emailed me this photo collage I'm going to put up. It has several really nice images of the park. And you said these photos were taken by Mitch Smith?
Yeah, he was one of our interns this last year.
Cool. Well, I was hoping I could leave this collage on the screen for a moment and you could share a little bit about the history or behind the scenes management of some of these spots on the screen.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe one of my favorite images that Mitch took is that of the water flowing out. I feel like this is something we commonly see as rangers and hopefully something that's commonly done by members of our community, where you come and you fill up your jugs with the thermal springs water. And, because our thermal springs are so rich in minerals, our maintenance rangers really have to do a lot of work to make sure that the water both stays flowing all the time and then also stays clean and free of any contamination. So, every time I think about our fountains, I cannot help but think about the countless hours, sometimes they're up all night in a building if a pipe has burst or if something's gone wrong, where they won't sleep until they fix the problem because it's such an integral part of our park and the way that the park operates. So yeah, if you drink our thermal springs water, if you ever see one of our maintenance rangers, I feel like you should just thank them profusely. And then, gosh, I love all of these pictures. Another iconic one, I guess, up top, that's the pavilion over by the mountain tower on Hot Springs Mountain. Not too much goes on there, but then we have the Grand Promenade. I believe that was in the middle of the summer, where it was lush and green. The Grand Promenade is one of my favorite walks, especially throughout the year, just to see the leaves changing and to see the flowers changing. And I especially love it because I feel like it's where I see the most amount of locals walking around. They're either going for a little run or, they have their families. And yeah, it's really special. And then we have the hot water cascade, which is it's one of our few display springs, but it's the biggest one in the park. And, we say it's a display spring because, as I mentioned, the water does come out of the ground 143 degrees. So it's really just for looking and, less for touching and submerging because that would be very difficult. And then the bottom left there, that's a view from the mountain tower where you can see downtown Hot Springs and you can see, how we really do sit in a valley here. And it's, it makes sense that we were once called, and they're sometimes still called the Valley of the Vapors. And then the bottom middle, that's Gulfa Creek. The Gulfa Gorge campground is our only campground in the park, and Gulfa Creek is a great place to cool off in the summer. So I love going down there and seeing all the kiddos splashing around or all the dogs splashing around and, everything. I love that campground.
Great. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. And if you had to choose one favorite location in the whole national park, what would you go with? It can be a view or an area, a trail.
Man, that's a great question. Okay, only one. I would probably have to pick the Goat Rock Trail, both for the trail itself and for the overlook. If you haven't been on Goat Rock, or if you have, when you climb those stairs to get to the top and then you just see those rolling hills, the Indian mountains, a lot of that is the recharge zone for the thermal springs themselves. So I love going up there, and I love imagining, all of the water that's falling today, all of us here, and how what we do today, like, is this going to change the water in 4,400 years? Is it going to be the same? And I find myself maybe against my better judgment getting very philosophical up there. So I enjoy it. I enjoy the perspective it offers.
So Hot Springs National Park is kind of unique. Might share this with St. Louis, the Gateway Arch, but we're both a national park and a city. And what's the dynamic, the relationship like between the federal side and the city side? I think a lot of people don't know how that interaction works or where the line's at. So could you share that information?
Yeah, it's so funny because often we meet people and they're like, hi, I'd really like to go to the national park. And so when we're standing at the bathhouses and we're like, well, welcome, you're already here. I find that people are often like, but I was just in a city. So, yeah, basically on one side of Central Avenue, we have the national park, and on the other, we have the city. And, being that we are in the middle of the city, and being that we have grown together with the city since the early 1800s, I think it puts us in a really unique and special position to work very closely with our city partners, because what affects the city affects the park, and what affects the park affects the city. And so, to the best of our ability, we work as well as we can with each other. Of course, we don't always see eye to eye, but it doesn't stop us from still coming together and, finding solutions for the betterment and for the benefit of both of us. So it's definitely, very interesting, but at least my experience for the Centennial is, I have just been like showered in support by the city of Hot Springs. People have just been like offering to help and offering to, create events. And, we have a committee, a citywide committee to help us think of things for the Centennial. And we have over 40, at least, we have over 40 partners, from different aspects of the city that are all involved in that. So I feel like Hot Springs is really lucky to have maintained and to be able to continue to grow this really close relationship with the city of Hot Springs.
Good to hear. We have another question about volunteering from Diana, who specifically wants to know, how can a senior volunteer help?
Oh gosh, depending on what you like to do, and depending on the time, senior volunteers, in fact, I don't want to say that most of our volunteers are, but yeah, most of our volunteers are seniors. So we have opportunities in our park visitor center to answer the phones and provide information. If you like giving tours or, co-leading tours, there's opportunities for that. And then, of course, at the events, if you want to help hand out information, or if you want to help lead a booth or a workshop, it ultimately comes down to your level of comfort and your interests and what gets you excited. But yeah, there are heaps of opportunities for all ages of people to be volunteers at the park.
Well, Bill Solider says hi.
Hi, Bill.
And he says, I think you would be an excellent bathtub captain for the Hot Springs National Park running of the Tubs team. And he asked me if I agree. So far, I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. This is one of the things we are really hoping is for Hot Springs National Park to put a bathtub team together. I might have to like arrange a coup and make myself the bathtub team captain and like rally a ragtag team of rangers, because I'm pretty sure we could win. So, yeah, really looking forward to the bathtub races this year.
Yeah, it's not a parade, but you could definitely make a theme, a very, like, put the hot spring into the tub. Like there's a connection there for the perfect tub.
You could have like steam, like fake steam off of the tubs. And that also is just like, eat our dust, people. We're so fast.
So we talked about the park's namesake earlier, of course, and in your presentation, you talked about how hot it gets and where the thermal waters come from. Let's address the urban legend that we're sitting on top of a volcano. What do you say about that?
Oh, we love all of the urban legends that we hear, from like we're sitting on top of a volcano, there's like a secret dragon that's actually living underground, and his hot breath is, or her hot breath, their hot breath is like heating the thermal waters themselves. Yeah, it's funny, but luckily, I feel like it's lucky that we're not sitting on top of a volcano and that our water is geothermally heated, just heated by the earth, because if we were a volcanic hot spring, then our water would probably smell like rotting eggs, and it would be a lot less tempting to consume. So we can totally scratch that out. If you're ever around a hot spring and if you smell sulfur, you can probably guarantee that there's a volcano that's heating that water. And if you don't, then you're probably in hot springs.
So the other big belief, of course, is the hot springs have healing properties, medicinal properties, and this belief is a large part of what granted hot springs its status as a national park. So is there any science behind those healing?
Yeah, there is no evidence. To say that our waters are curative, that they provide a cure, that's not necessarily true. And, there's not really evidence for that. But, you have to consider the time frame in which people first started coming here, the late 1800s, the early 1900s, when, sanitation and proper hygiene wasn't really a high priority. People didn't have bathrooms in their own homes. Most people didn't have clean running water in their homes. So if you were sick and if you were suffering from an ailment, and then you came to a place like Hot Springs where you could bathe in clean water multiple times a week, and then you were drinking clean water every day, you're bound to feel better, especially if you had never done that before. And given that, our water does have a lot of minerals, and minerals are good for the human body. So there is also that connection. But I think a lot of the healing, that people feel or people felt, is really just more of like a relief. And, the kind of like, I feel like it's more of like a relieving feeling. And it's more, especially in, those early days, pre-pharmaceuticals, pre-penicillin, it makes sense that people would feel and believe that.
Diana asked, pictures online show that there is a natural place to walk up to and get in. Is that true?
It looks, that is deceiving. It does look like you could get in one of those springs, but I would not recommend it because the water is so hot. The only places that cool the water down are the two bathhouses that offer bathing opportunities in the park. But, you can walk up and you can put your hands in, and if you can hold your hand in for more than 5 seconds, my hat is off to you because I am a huge baby. Even in our pools, the water is like 130-ish degrees, and we say that it's been cooled down. So yeah, no, that's just one of our display springs.
You just brought up the bathhouses, which was my next question, actually. What kind of services do they offer in today's age?
There are two bathhouses that offer services, the Quapaw Bathhouse and the Buckstaff, and they're both pretty different. They've adapted for the times. The Buckstaff, they started offering bathing services in 1912, and they've never stopped offering bathing services since then. So they, from what I understand, they do more of like a traditional bathing experience, where they walk you through series of, different things where you soak in the water for a bit, you get a scrub, you have a special shower, and then, you can add different things on like massages or facials. Whereas the Quapaw is more of like a modern day spa, where they have like a series of community pools like that I think are either 4 or 5 different temperatures that you could soak in indoors. But they also have private baths that you can reserve along with massages and facials and blowouts and, all of these wonderful modern amenities that we enjoy.
Looks like there might be a little bit of a debate going on in the chat about what you should name your tub or your tub team. So
what are the options?
Let's see. Centennial Tub, Magnet on the Dragon by Bill. Those are the 2 so far, and then someone told Bill to give it up.
Well, we'll see. We might have to have an online poll once I rally a team together and let the people decide what our name should be.
Good idea. So I received a question in advance from someone. She wanted to know if you could give any insight into what's going to happen with the medical arts building.
Gosh, that is like way out of my field of knowledge, honestly. Unfortunately, my big focus is like visitor services and the history of hot springs and the Centennial itself. So I could not speak to the future of the medical arts building. So sorry.
Let's see, got another picture here to share, which you guys actually shared on your Facebook page. And I was hoping you could tell us what we're looking at.
Yeah, the Ostrich Wagon. There were lots of really funny things that took place in Hot Springs, and this is one of them. And so, memorialized forever is the Ostrich Wagon on this here historic postcard.
There we go. So we ostriches walking downtown anymore, but what kinds of wildlife can visitors to the park expect to see?
Well, given that we are a very urban park, I feel like the most common wildlife you'll see are probably the chipmunks and squirrels, along with, like sparrows and bluebirds and things like that. Occasionally, if we're lucky, we will find black bear scat, or we'll find deer that are roaming Hot Springs Mountain. But honestly, we don't really have a terribly exotic, wildlife
Right.
events in Hot Springs. But I will say that coming up on December 21st, I believe, December 20th, is the 122nd Christmas bird count. And so this is the longest running citizen science project that has taken place in Hot Springs. 122 years. And so people go throughout town, like literally all over Hot Springs, like it could even be your backyard, and you count birds. Here in Arkansas, we are on a major flyway. And so during migratory season, people, we just want to know who's traveling, how many of them are here, to help continue amass that kind of data. So if you're interested in, signing up for that or joining that, definitely either call the park or send us an email.
That's a good time to promote an upcoming library event. We have Jerry Butler with the Audubon Society. He's going to give a presentation on the bird count this Saturday at 6 p.m.
Oh, awesome.
I think you guys have something coming up too. Is that correct? Maybe. I might have seen it on Facebook. Maybe not. All right. Diana asked, what is one thing you would think a first-time visitor should see to get a real feel for our history? Good question.
Gosh, that is a great question. Man. I feel like, really walking Bathhouse Row and the Grand Promenade, if there was, this is usually if people are like, I can only do one thing, I have 30 minutes, I just send them on the Grand Promenade, walk around the row, because you get to see these huge historic bathhouses. We don't really have buildings like that anymore. And, they're really an homage to that old American spa, to like the heyday of people coming here for healing, from things, in buildings that were, a bit more simpler to buildings that were extremely ornate. And then also along Bathhouse Row, we do have our display springs. So then you can see the hot springs themselves. And then as you go around the corner and walk down the promenade, you get a feel for, the lush, beautiful forests that exist here by looking up on the hillside. And then walk past the green spring boxes where you can see, that whole field of them, and like, wow, there are a lot of springs here. And so I don't know, I feel like it paints a really quick, but really great picture of the history of our park.
I'm going to kind of ask the reverse question that she asked. And what's something you would recommend for a resident here, maybe the best kept secret that residents may not have experienced before at the park?
Ooh, gosh, that is a really good question. Man, recently, a couple of times this year, I have hiked the Sunset Trail, which is like a 12, 13-mile loop all through the park. And, if you haven't hiked that, it sounds like a lot, and, it is a lot. But I feel like that is just such a great hike because you traverse, all of these mountains, and then you come back into town, and then, I don't know, that feeling of getting out, going up and down, and like you cross the Northwoods trails and you get all of these viewpoints from, different angles of the city. I feel like it's definitely worth, attempting. And, even in segments, because you can park at different streets and just do like little snippets, but doing that whole round, I feel as a resident has really helped me to appreciate Hot Springs and the national park a lot more, just to see the diversity of the landscapes that we protect and that we hold here.
One thing that wasn't in your presentation, but you might be able to share a lot of is, could you share any of the Indigenous history of the park with us? I know the other day you guys posted what to do if you found any artifacts.
Yeah, sure. I could speak a little bit to that. There are, just speaking of like urban tales, there are all of these legends that have been sort of promoted throughout time about how Indigenous tribes would come here, and even if they were warring, they would lay down their axes and they would soak and enjoy the springs together. But, according to a lot of the archaeological record that we've discovered, we did have quite a few tribes that came here, like the Quapaw, the Caddo, the Osage, and the absentee Shawnee. But they would come here primarily to harvest the novaculite that exists on the tops of a lot of our mountains. The novaculite is also known as Arkansas whetstone. And so, as we experience and enjoy today, it's great for sharpening tools, for making tools. And so, it was a big component of their trade and of their weaponry system. But, it's such a vast and complicated history that, beyond that, I mean, at least me personally, I don't have many more details. But yeah, it's definitely something that we're always building upon. And, we are working on improving and like reconnecting and invigorating our tribal relations with these different tribes. So that way, we can get a more accurate and complete story as told by the tribes themselves and not necessarily only inferred by us.
All right, Ashley. Well, I'll give you an opportunity to sign us off. If there's any other information you'd like to share or just any message you'd like to give to residents and visitors.
Yeah, sure. We, like probably many of you, we are so ready to be done with 2020. And we are really looking forward to celebrating in 2021. And, one of our biggest goals is to bring the community back into the park, because we wouldn't be here without you. We couldn't be who we are without the people who live here. And so, we've deliberately created such a wide variety of events to serve as multiple bridges to bring you back into the park. So we look forward to celebrating with you. We hope that you'll join us, whether that's virtually or in person or by volunteering. But we are so thankful to Hot Springs and the Hot Springs community. And we are just so excited to celebrate our centennial. So thank you all so much. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. We are always here. We're available every day from 9 to 5. So give us a call, give us an email, send us a message on Facebook. We can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.